Hi, I'm Rob, and in this Gems of War video, I'll be taking a look in the Soulforge and telling you what I think are the best weapons and mythics to craft from there this week, or indeed, what to avoid. Also be taking a look at this weekly event troop, the Grave Giant. Anyway, when is a door not a door? When it's a jar. A jar. Do you see? Oh yeah, right, let's take a look at this troop, the Grave Giant. Stormheim Epic. What does he do? Deals magic +2 damage to an enemy. If the enemy is death marked, deal double damage, then create 2 death mark gems. The traits gain 1 life on 4 or 5 gem matches, inflict death mark when doing skull damage, not too bad, and immune to poison disease, lycanthropy and death mark. So immune to death mark itself, so if you get to cast that spell and then the enemy gets to take advantage of those death mark gems themselves, then this troop is not going to be actually affected by that. So in a undead team, or with everybody having undying, then you're not going to be affected by that death mark, and can inflict death mark when doing skull damage. Don't really like the fact that it does the damage first and then creates 2 death mark gems, thus setting up the opponent to take advantage of them. If the enemy team has no way of exploding the board and destroying those death mark gems, then yeah, far more usable. But overall, pretty average. 5 out of 10. Not going to be that much use, but maybe in an undead team with everybody having undying. You never know. 5.5 out of 10 if I'd being really super picky. Right, as ever, you can take this all the way up to mythic level if you have the required glory. Always a good thing to do. Going to give yourself another troop on level 20, which is going to affect your power level kingdoms in the long run, which is always useful. Spores of War, I always like to grab 10 of these as well. More event keys, more lovely treasure maps to throw in your room of treasure maps you're never going to use. More souls and gold always comes in handy, especially if you're a newer player. Alright, let's take a look in the Soulforge then and see what's going on there. The Forge of the Soul. Let's take a look at the weapons first. I'm not going to go over all these ones that are here all the time. These are in my Soulforge Extra video, and I'll put the link in the description below this one. First up, we have Ice Aegis. Steals magic +2 attack and armor from an enemy. If the enemy is a boss, freeze all enemies and barrier all allies. Pretty good. Steal, you take it away from the enemy and actually add that to your own attack and armor. So kind of double the effect in a way. And if the enemy is a boss, freeze all enemies and barrier all allies. That's kind of good and bad at the same time. It says if the enemy is a boss, the trouble is a lot of the bosses are actually immune to freeze. So, you know, like Zul'Goth and Rage Gandara, the typical ones you see quite often. So good and bad, but barrier all allies is really, really good as well. So, yeah, not a bad weapon at all, that. Quite a lot of that. Doomed Hammer. Deals magic-based heavy splash damage to an enemy, +4 per tempering level, stun all blue enemies, cleanse all blue allies, and explode 4 gems. If the enemy has a doom, explodes 3 more. So pretty good on Guild Wars type days where you might be a blue team against another blue team. Can go that way sometimes, but yeah, splash damage is good. It's just not as good as skull damage. So yeah, not a bad weapon, but not exactly outrageously amazing either. Axe of the Storm. This is what I call the anti-Stormheim weapon. Blue is the colour that giants like the most, and this removes all blue gems. Then deals magic-based damage to an enemy, boosted by the amount of gems removed at a 3-to-1 ratio. If the enemy is from Stormheim or the battle is in Stormheim, deal double damage. So yeah, really good against giants and battles in Stormheim. Doomed Wand. Creates 4 green gems. See, I find this weapon interesting. I'm going to look into this one a bit more. +1 gem per tempering level. So if you add this on +10, you're going to create like, what, 14 gems? Really good. That's a lot of green going on. Then give magic +2 armor to all blue allies. If the enemy has a doom, eliminate all armor from a random enemy. So yeah, actually, interesting weapon this, because it creates green but gives the armor to all blue. So you want all blue, But you want some of them blue allies, at least one of them, someone very powerful, to use green at the same time to charge them up. Now, I think that when the devs make these kind of weapons, that is not fluke, that is not random, that is just not a chance thing that is creating those green like that. There's a thought in mind behind this that's going to make this weapon really, really work. So I'm going to put a bit more thought into this because I think this weapon has potential to work with somebody that uses blue and green in a really, really good way. So potentially very good, the Doomed Wand. Ginormous Cleaver, even bigger than the Enormous Cleaver. Deals magic-based damage to an enemy boosted by Stormheim allies, then creates a mix of 6 blue and yellow gems for each Stormheim ally. Uses brown and purple, but creates blue and yellow, so you need to make sure at least a couple of your other troops use blue and yellow to take advantage of all that lovely mana. What else we got? We have the Crown of Horns. Do like these explodey, summony weapons. Explodes magic +1 blue gems. Grants a random status effect to all giants, so more effective in an all giant team. Then summons a giant troop. So lots of mana gen, a summon as well. Status effects, love them type of weapons, really good, always worth picking up. Same as these cheap weapons, just 75 diamonds. You may ignore it and think I'm never going to use that. But take a look at Stormheim on your kingdom, see what power level you're on, see if you need to get another weapon powered up to a max amount to move your kingdom to the next level. Really good way to do that sometimes. Quite often you're going to be like one weapon short of doing that, and this is a good way to pick up a cheap weapon and progress your kingdoms. This one deals magic-based scatter damage, and this Zephyros is on the team. Explode 5 gems. So yeah, nothing fantastic, but sometimes worth picking up just to move your kingdoms along. Onyx Blade, do like this. Deals magic-based damage to an enemy, then converts 8 yellow gems to Uber Doomskulls. Uber Doomskulls do a lot of damage, and they cause a massive explosion which generates mana, often charging up a lot of the team at the same time. So really, really cool. Really nice weapon. I do like that a lot. And that is it for the weapons. Now let's take a look at the troops. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. The Faerie Gobmother is first up on the list of mythics. Gains an extra turn, standard for goblins, and either creates 2 or 3 wish gems, or deals magic +1 damage to all enemies boosted by wish gems, or gives the same amount of life to all other allies boosted by wish gems. So gives life, does damage, or creates wish gems with an extra turn. So that is actually pretty cool. It can be a very, very good troop indeed. But yeah, I'm just never keen on the ones that does one thing or the other, even though this one does have an extra turn. But still a bit of an underrated troop and still very, very good. Astral Mother. I'm intrigued by this one because I'll explain why. Removes all gems of a chosen colour with no effect. That is a bit weird already for something that costs 24 mana. Now, if it done a hideous amount of true scatter damage, I could forgive that. But it doesn't. It just deals a little bit of magic-based true scatter damage boosted by gems removed at a ×5 ratio. So say there was 10 gems there that you remove. The boost is going to be 50. Even in my case, that's still not even 100 true scatter damage. That's nothing. Like other troops that are legendary, like Queen Bee, it does a better spell than that. And I find that a bit weird, because say, for example, compare this to the Grey King. He can do a hideous amount of damage to all troops of the same colour, while the gems are removed with full effect, so he maybe gets a chance to do it again. And the other troops are, what is it, mana drained, frozen and stunned, is it, or something like that? Just awesome. And it's like, that does nothing like the same amount. Only if the devs are putting a huge amount of benefit onto something like Impervious or Pool of Stars, at a 40% chance to give Reflect. But I don't know, I can't see how those traits make up for that lack of spell. So Astral Mother, get on your clippity clop centaur hooves and hop out of here. Not very good. Lord of Slaughter, this is more like it. This is a dangerous fella. He looks angry, and indeed he is. Creates 6 brown gems, then convert all brown gems to Doomskulls. So not only can you check first to make sure you have some alignment on brown gems to Doomskulls, but you know that if you cast this, you can create 6 brown gems, and yeah, it can be absolutely devastating. Then inflict 1 to 2 bleeds and 1 to 2 death marks on random enemies. As well as that, you get this thing charged up and you get a 100% chance to ignore armor with skull damage, making skull damage effectively true damage. Really, really cool. Love the Lord of Slaughter. He's an absolute beast. What we got? 1, 2, 3. There's another one somewhere. Undine. Okay, another one of the bit rubbish ones. Deals magic-based damage to an enemy and the next enemy below, so don't cast this on the bottom troop if you can avoid it, because you're not going to be getting the full amount of damage. Boosted by Merfolk and Submerged allies. Submerge blue allies and silence blue enemies. So again, most effective on an all-blue team against another all-blue team, which makes it super situational on its own. Submerges itself at the start of every turn, is immune to mana burn, mana drain and mana steal, which is just as well because it's not a very good spell and you're not going to be casting that much. He's, yeah, stay in the water, mate. Not going to be using you very much. Alright, so that is the Mythics. Let's take a look at the Legendaries now, who are a little bit mixed up in here. They're bunged in with the other troops. Usurvius deals magic +1 damage to all enemies, boosted by burning and enraged allies and enemies. Fairly decent, like damage to all, very good indeed, and a 50% chance to burn a random enemy at the start of my turn, and reduce damage from skulls by 50%, which is cool. And enrage myself when I take damage, so very, very good in first slot. Reduce damage from them skulls. If he takes damage, he gets enraged and then deals 1.5 times attack on skull hits, so very, very good indeed. I like that a lot. Sir Quentin Hadley, another excellent troop. All knights start with 50% mana, damage reduction from skulls by 25%, converts purple to green to yellow and green gems to skulls, and then deals magic +2 damage to 2 random enemies. Very good indeed. Another troop you can check to see if you get format alignment first before you cast it. Escula. All Urska allies start with 50% mana and deals magic-based scatter damage boosted by enraged allies. Enraged all allies and give them 6 attacks. So yeah, just so really, but yeah, all these troops here, like these legendary ones, wouldn't actually craft these. I'd wait for them to pop up in chests. Better off saving your diamonds for these much harder to get mythics. Shegra could be a possible exception. Do love this troop. Creates 7 red gems and converts all red gems to skulls. Really, really good. Again, if you get any red mixed in with a skull either side or vice versa, you know this is going to create skull hits. So with a powerful team, you know that Shegra can go absolutely nuts sometimes. And burns a random enemy when matching red gems and deal double skull damage versus burning enemies. So in the correct team, Shegra, a really, really cool troop. Who's my Mythic of the Week? Who's it gonna be? Well, it's certainly not gonna be it's not gonna be Undine, what his stupid name is. Certainly not gonna be Astral Mother. Faerie Gobmother is good, but it can only go to the Lord of Slaughter. Very, very devastating in first slot. I like it a lot. The fact it is War Gear and Constructor now means we have various options to start this with 50% mana at the same time. Really, really cool. Lord of Slaughter gets my Mythic of the Week. Well, I'll be back later on with my World Event team, so be sure to check back for that if you fancy it. But that is this video done. If you enjoyed it, found it useful, any of that kind of thing, be really cool if you bash that like and subscribe button. It really does help. But most of all, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again next time. Bye for now.